You think you've got my number figured out? A motive born in drought and brevity. And if I'm not the soul of your design, I blatantly decline your remedy. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine. Wasn't always just a single shade, a palette full of gray in reverie. And I can burn it brighter than the sun. I have a golden gun inside of me. Don't box me in, don't, or I'll leave. I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else. And if I fall behind, ignoring all the signs, if I lose the fight, I still rage against the night. Don't box I'd rather be a dreamer, I'd rather be free, I'd rather be a leader, I'd rather be a queen, I'd rather be a singer in a trashy cover band. I'd rather be a closer, I'd rather be clean, I'd rather be a poser in a magazine, I'd rather be pretty much anything else than your machine.
Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday. It is Friday Junior, basically, folks. Welcome, everybody. Good for Gabby, Saris, Looney Tunes, Michael Hasser, welcome. John Lithium, welcome. Moanep Cognizant. I hope everyone's doing okay. Here we go again with another boring episode. Woke a difficult truth. Doesn't this wise guy, he's a wise guy, has Trump derangement syndrome. Welcome, everybody. I hope everyone enjoyed last night's episode of Left Past 10. For those of you in the know, I was there. Hans, welcome. I hope everyone's doing all right, folks. We gotta get we gotta get started. Thank you all for being here. As always, folks, if you want to support the channel, do all the things. Check out all the stuff. Hit the buttons and do the doodads and all the likes and the comments and the subscribes. If you want to support the channel, one of the best ways of doing so is spreading the word far and wide. It really does help us out. We're approaching we're approaching the goal of trying to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, so keep doing it. You're in the know, right? I imagine that a lot of you are. So I just kind of assume. Okay, I am assuming that a lot of you are connoisseurs. Check out all the links if you want to support the channel there. Check the merch store, hit the exclamation mark. Join the Discord, check out the Substack, and check out my show on this space every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Bruno, welcome. Hi there. Another shiny day from Polymarket Studios. True. Let's get started, folks. My voice is not is not the best today, so we'll try to see how far we can go.
Journalist Laksha Jain released a new poll which finds that support for trans rights has fallen pretty significantly, unfortunately. As he put it, it's possibly the worst issue for progressives he's ever polled. And in his article, he details how even though the Democratic Party's approval has bounced back, support for trans rights has only declined. The poll finds that a majority of voters still support discrimination against trans people in school sports. They also oppose life-saving, medically necessary gender-affirming healthcare for trans youth. And a majority now even supports unconstitutional restrictions on their bathroom usage. And while support for same-sex marriage still remains pretty high, a plurality of Americans now side with Republicans overall on LGBTQ+ issues, presumably because they approve of the party's explicit transphobia. And Jane concludes the backsliding is real and serious. This is perhaps the most unfavorable that the public has been towards trans rights in quite some time. Republicans have successfully and effectively exploited several flashpoint issues like sports in order to shift public opinion in their direction, while progressives have been unable to effectively muster persuasive arguments. Some of this may be down to an unwillingness to even entertain a debate in an unsuccessful effort to maintain a unified front. Progressive activists and organizations have often been confrontational when challenged with dissenting views, leading critics to claim that these
just to be clear, like the dissenting views here are the existence of a group of people, right? Like that's the debate, by the way. So yeah, I think that people are going to be confrontational when you're challenging their existence, right? Like this isn't like a debate. Does that make sense? We're not there is nothing to debate here. Actually, this is a pretty heartbreaking clip. I haven't seen it. We'll just try to power through it.
Tactics left little room for actual debate. The net result, however, is the worst case scenario for progressives and trans individuals alike, as a previously sympathetic public support of trans rights has completely unraveled over the last decade. And on Twitter, Jane recommends that progressives address this by watering down their support for trans rights by ceding ground on issues like sports. And he also argues that he doesn't think this trend is going to change unless, quote, there's a change in tactics.
The right wants you to hate the wrong 1%. True.
From the movement. Now, we're going to address that recommendation in a minute, but first, I want to look at the conclusions being drawn from this poll, both from liberals and fascists, because...
Yeah, so, like, again, like, the thing is, the thing is, like, if you make the concession, like, for example, like, they're suggesting, right, for the sports thing, it's like, you're basically saying that these far-right freaks are correct, when in reality this isn't like an issue at all. This is a non-issue at all. So what is the concession here? Like this is like this is like being asked to concede. This is like being asked to concede on reality itself, right? Like, who cares? Okay, you didn't care about women's sports to begin with, so why should we make that concession? Like, just leave trans people alone. Jesus Christ, they're just human beings like anyone else. I just don't understand. There's a decline in everyone's rights. Trans rights were just the first to go. Yeah, because they're the easiest target, right? Like, at least that's what they think. They're presumably the easiest target because they're a very small portion of the population. And yes, you're right, Cognizant. Actually, from now on, we should just address them as right-wing. Yeah, I agree. They need to be... Oh, okay, stop addressing them as right-wing, and they need to be labeled as far-right and Nazis. I agree, most of them are. Most of the people pushing this anti-trans stuff end up just being far-right people, because what really is happening here is just that they need a minority to bully, and trans people being such a small percent of the population just presents a perfect target for them. The amount of trans athletes in sports is negligible. Correct. Like, it's really a non-issue. It's really a non-issue, but these people are making it an issue and blowing it up on national proportions where everyone's talking about this, when in reality it's like one person. You know what I mean? I'm obviously exaggerating, but you get the point. It's literally just like a handful of people that this actually applies. Yeah, trans rights are human rights, correct.
Say, I think that they're downright dangerous. And Sahil Kapoor said something that I see a lot of liberals saying, that this is evidence that the Democratic Party should indeed abandon trans people. He says there's a vocal segment of liberals and lefties who turned against Gavin Newsom when he made those comments, but polls keep showing even Democratic voters are skeptical of trans athletes in women's sports.
But that's just ceding the ground to these far-right freaks. Like, what are you talking about? This is exactly falling into that trap, right? Into that far right trap. Where are these massive amounts of trans athletes in women's sports? And let's be honest, when was the last time any of these people cared about women? Do you think that, like, all these far right freaks are actually genuinely worried about women's sports? No, they don't care, because they're misogynist to begin with. Left needs to do a Mamdani strategy. I think that should be a pretty baseline strategy. Going, you know, it's kind of like it's a modern take on the Bernie sauce, right? First time a generation is born with less rights than a generation before it. Same is true with intelligence, but they think it's due to usage of screens, switching to paper and chalk, improved test scores. Huh. implement radical economic issues so trans issues gets eclipsed by them. Yeah, but like that all kind of falls like it's all kind of in there. Of course you should be addressing economic issues, of course, but I bet half of Gen Z will be like 80% of Gen X.
Wasn't breaking with his base, he was aligning with it. He adds, as anyone who lived through the 2020 primary will know, most passionate voices online do not equal party base. Now, on the opposite side of the spectrum, self-proclaimed theocratic fascist Matt Walsh declared victory minutes after the poll was published, writing on Twitter, "Everything I've said about transgenderism."
Yeah, so then you see like what the problem is here, right? Because then these freaks start coming out of the woodwork saying we were right.
For the past 10 years.
I get crazy over Marxism if you bring it up. You don't have to bring up Marxism to advocate for like left-leaning politics, right? Like obviously like the ideology comes from Marxism, but like you can just talk about kitchen table issues, sure. Like in fact as a left as a leftist streamer, I don't bring up Marx very often at all. Not very often. I just bring up left-wing politics because that's what I believe in. It doesn't matter how you bring about it. It's just the point being is to advocate for these policies. Far Right Nutjob stop talking about trans rights.
Has been absolutely correct and totally vindicated. Now I'm telling you that the trans violence we've seen so far is nothing compared to what's coming if we don't treat trans ideology as a severe public safety hazard and crack down on it immediately and aggressively.
Yeah,
and that
so,
tweet right there speaks to how anti-trans rhetoric has reached Nazi.
Yeah, so there's no such thing as like trans violence. Like what is that? That's not a thing, okay? Matt Walsh is pretending like trans people are like a political ideology. That's not it, but then again, Matt Walsh is like a Nazi, so I've never mentioned Marxism in my life.
Levels. It's not just that trans people are bathroom predators. Now they're apparently violent threats who pose public safety hazards too.
Right, and and Matt Walsh's prescription to that is just to eliminate them. In the very literal sense. Fox News will bring Karl Marx for you. They're the best promoters of that.
So the anti-trans rhetoric obviously is escalating, and those two tweets really encapsulate how this poll is being used as a justification to abandon trans people at a minimum or crack down on them at worst. Now, I'm not blaming Jane, to be clear. He just conducted and released the poll, so I'm not going to shoot the messenger. But with that being said, I don't think that his framing helped. And I also take issue with the wording of some of the questions in this poll. For example, there was one question that tries to gauge support by asking whether or not they support prohibiting, quote, the teaching of gender identity in public elementary schools. But I don't really know what that means, and I'm sure the respondents who took this poll don't either. Does that mean, teaching general acceptance or queer history? Who knows? But I think that Americans might view that as code for, oh, should schools turn my kids trans? Because that's what Republicans have told them that they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
The poll also asks whether or not Americans support gender surgery for minors, but again, there's no context here. Americans are going to hear that and think, oh, that means chopping off kids' dicks, when that's not a thing that's actually happening, contrary, obviously against that, but is that really a phenomenon that's prevalent enough to warrant a public opinion poll? Especially because after the image of gay people punching straight people in the faces has been planted into my head, I might not be too kind to gay people in subsequent questions. But
right.
I'm not trying to nitpick the wording or methodology of this poll because, unfortunately, this poll is in line with other polls who found that, yes, trans people are not very popular right now. But my real issue is with Jane's framing of the findings and the conclusions that he draws, because I think
Fox News mentioned 0 times the trans rights measures from Mamdani during the campaign.
That he is saying things that are harmful. He provides zero evidence to suggest that radical.
Not to mention the gay trans or gay mass shooters. What are you talking about? What does that mean? What does that mean?
Trans activists are the ones who turned the country against trans people. And on top of that, he doesn't mention the millions of dollars being spent by Republicans against trans people. But I just want to say here, as somebody who probably falls into that category that, you know, he would characterize as a radical trans activist, the left will cede ground to bigots over my dead body, because while I don't deny that public opinion on trans rights is obviously negative, the same can be said for literally every other civil rights issue throughout our country's entire fucking history.
Yep.
If marginalized people waited until public opinion changed to ask for rights, we would never make any progress on any issue ever. So quite frankly, I don't give a fuck if Americans agree or disagree with trans rights. If a new poll came out tomorrow showing that 99.9% of Americans oppose all rights for trans people, guess what? I'd still stand 10 toes down with the trans.
Yeah, because they're just humans. This is about human rights. Can we make that comment on YouTube? Probably not. That's why I got immediately zapped. Howdy, howdy. Welcome, Ladybug. Most people are ignorant on what being transgender means. Yep, that's true. But like, even if you are ignorant, like genuinely ignorant, meaning like you just don't know, like if it doesn't affect you, right? Then like, then like, I don't know, maybe like mind your business, right? Like that's what that's what like blows my mind about this whole thing. Like, even if you're genuinely ignorant on trans people, like you have no idea, you just don't know anything, mind your business. That's it.
Community, because civil rights are non-negotiable, and I don't care
Correct.
about what's popular. I care about what's right. We're talking about basic human rights.
Yep.
That don't
Most people have been propagandized. I agree.
get to be vetoed by a tyrannical majority that's been brainwashed by a fascist right-wing movement. But based on Jane's analysis, I think that he'd probably argue that my refusal to back down or even debate the issue is why public opinion has shifted so
Yeah,
sharply.
but like again, this isn't a debate, right? Like this isn't a debate. People's human rights aren't up for debate. That's not how that works. Okay, and he's right. Mike is right. Like back then during the civil rights era, Martin Luther King was one of like the most like persona non grata in the country. He was extremely unpopular. He was hated. It doesn't matter how people felt about black people or women or gay people getting rights. It's still the objectively correct position is that everyone should have human rights. Period. It doesn't matter who you are. Exactly. Transphobic idiots should mind their own effing business. Right. Again, even if you have no idea about trans people or gay people or whatever, leftist politics, mind your business, bro. If you have no idea on what you're talking about, mind your business. It's the most easiest thing you could do, okay? But no, these people have to be hateful, puny-brained, hateful bigots, and pick on trans people because they perceive them as vulnerable. Asking people to mind their business in the social media age is like asking people to stop breathing. Social media needs to be broken too. It's not just the banks that need to be broken. Social media needs to be broken too. Should have specified what I was trying to get to was the church shooting of 25, the shooter, 23-year-old who was identifying as trans, or the Charlie Kirk shooter who was dating someone who's dating the same gender. It does not mean that all trans or gay people are like that, but I should have specified. Yeah, but like, what does that have to do? Like, see, the thing is, like, the only reason people bring this up, is to inevitably dunk on trans people and paint them as dangerous. Like, that's the only reason anyone would bring that up, right? Like, the whole conversation is about people having rights, and freaks like Matt Walsh trying to eradicate said group of people.
Trans people, but I can assure him that that is
if
not.
You think I'm just gonna go make a Trump joke on trans people? Sorry, that shit's not happening.
The case. Americans aren't listening to the Humanist Report. They're not listening to activists on Twitter and concluding, wow, I used to support trans people, but after seeing how unreasonable these trans activists are, I think they've gone too far and I'm withdrawing my support. That's not happening. Like, the average person isn't Cenk Uygur or Anna Kasparian. Most people aren't privy to these super insular debates that are occurring online. The reason why support for trans people has slipped is because Americans have been bombarded with nonstop
it's just simply like the right-wing propaganda just has a lot of funding behind it, and they can will talking points into existence, right? Like Jesse Waters, one of the most despicable people on Fox News, literally told us how that happens, right? Like, they literally told us what the pipeline is. They pick something up from, like, social media that gets blown up on, like, the podcast, podcast bro circuit, and then inevitably it ends up on shows like Jesse Waters on Fox News. He literally talked about this. Firefly, welcome.
Trans propaganda for nearly 4 years. Republicans have poured millions of dollars into a fear-mongering campaign about just a small minority of people, all so they can divide the working class, so that way they're not paying attention to the Epstein class robbing the rest of them blind. Republicans know that trans people don't pose a threat to society. It's society that actually poses a threat to them, but they target trans people because they're an easy scapegoat. Since most Americans, they don't have a reference point. They don't know a trans person. So it's easy to exploit their ignorance and fill their heads with untrue bullshit if they don't have anything else to go on. The same was true about gay people. They were cultural pariahs. They were seen as diseased, literally, and they were seen as predatory perverts because politicians and propagandists told people that they were diseased, predatory perverts. It took decades upon decades of gay people coming out one by one for the rest of the public to finally realize, okay, those things that I was told about gay people weren't true, because now I know a gay person. My son or my sister is gay. Therefore, the propaganda that was once embedded in their brains begins to break down, because the people that they said were monsters obviously aren't monsters if you know them, and they're perfectly pleasant people. Now, in the 2010s, trans people started to really come out in larger numbers and finally get representation in mass media for the first time, but conservatives decided to push back against that seemingly inevitable culture.
Thank you. Hope you're doing well. I'm hanging in there.
Shift, because they didn't want trans rights to become another losing battle for them like gay rights was. They saw how culture and mass media helped to foster widespread acceptance for gays and lesbians, and they responded by saying, you know what, we're going to hijack this new movement, because if people start to see trans people as human beings, then we're going to lose that battle too. Like, that's why they're targeting Bud Light. Because seeing a trans woman's face on a beer can, something as simple as that, might help to normalize their existence. It's why they're propping up losers like Riley Gaines, who tied for 5th place with the trans woman, because they know that Americans are going to see that pretty white woman and be more likely to empathize with her than nameless, faceless trans people that they've never met. And one thing Republicans get, though, that nobody else seems to understand, is that public opinion is not static. I genuinely believe that you could convince Americans to cut off their own dicks if you fed them a consistent diet of propaganda for 4 years. Republicans know that they can make their position the default position if they're persistent enough, if they say it over and over and over again. It's why everyone thought that Biden had open borders while he was literally deporting millions and millions of immigrants, because that's all that people heard. So they didn't have a reason to question what they were hearing, since nobody was challenging that false claim. It's why Americans have long viewed the Republican Party, the party of trickle people down as the party that's better on the economy. Because propaganda is very effective, but it's especially powerful when Democrats don't even try to offer a counter narrative. So of course, trans bad is going to become the default position to average Americans because that's what they're hearing and they don't have anything else to go on. So they're just like, okay, yeah, fuck trans people. Most Democrats, they sat by for years and they said nothing, even as right-wing rhetoric towards trans people became downright genocidal. And to add insult to injury, some Democrats who refuse to challenge these harmful narratives are now trying to ride the waves of hate created by Republican propaganda, all to further their own political careers. Case in point, Kamala Harris recently came out in favor of discrimination towards trans people in sports after Republicans hammered her over trans issues during the election. It didn't matter to them that she didn't even mention trans people once in her policy platform. That wasn't enough. She thinks that she needs to be explicitly anti-trans to be electorally viable these days, but she's not alone because multiple
right, because again, like what she was thinking is all these like consultant class triangulation, like zero in, like, oh well, the average America, the average American, blah blah blah. Like, no man, you got to stand up for what's right because it's right. Yeah, you know, what a concept. Like immigration before ISS was launched. Yeah. Winnie Rose, welcome. Did somebody say trans bad? Yeah.
28
Kamala
contenders have either come out in support of discrimination against trans people or they've tried to muddy the waters about trans rights. Here's some examples.
I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that.
The backlash
Where is that happening?
received for even raising
Got GOP Mala.
the issue proves my point that we have trouble as a party just simply having discussions about these complicated issues.
What's complicated, bro? There's nothing complicated about this. Either you stand for human rights or you don't. There's nothing complicated about this. It's simple. Just like stand with human rights. That's it. Just treat trans people like humans, right? Like just treat them like people and fight for their rights when you have people like Matt Walsh saying that there's something need to be done about them. That's what you're up against, okay? You've got people like Matt Walsh saying that they need to be that something they need to be dealt with. You've got people like what was the other guy? The other Daily Wire guy, Michael Knowles, saying that trans people need to be, or transgenderism needs to be eradicated. You know what I mean? Like just stand up for the right thing and say no, leave trans people alone. And that's it. CBS News, home to bullshit from Terry Weiss and Tony Two Cuts. Oh my god, I remember that. Welcome. Boo, Team USA just won gold in women's figure skating.
Right now should come out and be like, you know what? The young man who's about to win the state championship in the long jump in female sports,
right.
that shouldn't happen. You as the governor should step out say no.
No, and I appreciate.
But like, would you do something like that? Would you say no men in female sports?
Well, I think it's an issue of fairness. I completely agree with you on that.
So, what? God, this guy's so terrible. This guy is so terrible, man. Look at this. Look at this exchange. This dude's got, like, his shoulders all slumped, like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like, and Charlie's like, but am I? Like, bro, are you serious right now? Like, you should be like, hey, man, what are you talking about? Where is this massive phenomenon that you're talking about with the sports issue? And second of all, hey, Charlie, when was the last time you cared about women's sports, Charlie? Because we've all heard you talk about women. That's how I would have responded. It's like, spare me, dude. Spare me. Spare me. New scum. Hockey women just won gold. Oh, U.S. hockey women just won gold. Wow. Newsom is the biggest beta in politics right now.
Removing the humanity, right versus wrong, the morality on either side, politically, it is a major problem for the Democratic Party.
What about for your values? I mean, is 8 years old too young?
Yeah, I mean, look, I now that I have a 9-year-old, just became 9. Come on, man, I get it. So those are legit. Mm-hmm. The trans issue for me is also novel. It's over the last few years.
Novel? What's so novel about leaving people alone? What are you talking about? There's nothing novel about this. Are we pretending? Are we pretending that like trans people just like burst out of existence in the last like 10 years? That's not how that works, dude. Yeah, spare me the BS. News come over Canada, and they were really, really salty. Yeah, I bet. I bet.
I'm trying to understand as much as anyone else. Whole pronoun thing.
Again, bro, if you genuinely don't understand, which again Newsom does, I know that he does. He's also not dumb. Okay. I know that he understands, but let if you don't understand, then just leave him alone, okay? Like, oh, I want to be she, her now. Okay, and that's it. Move along. Holy crap. Trans rights won't be accepted until they're accepted in a ridiculous popular Netflix series with a market share comparable to Game of Thrones.
Understand all of that.
That has to work in America.
Well, that was like the hell. I mean, all that stuff. I get it. And
no, you don't.
This notion of gender affirming care for children, that's tough, man. And the science
about?
On that, I'm trying.
The science on that is pretty clear, actually. It's unambiguous, actually. The science on that is unambiguous. It's actually pretty like unified on this. Newscom is acting like Jordan B. Peterson. He's not wanting to use pronouns. It's
go that deep into it.
Scumbag.
But, I read one report, and then there's one that's slightly contradictory, and then they said there's no contradictory. Here's what the UK just came out with. You're full of shit. It's absolutely scientifically sound that it's outrageous. And so it's intense. And then I meet with families, literally meet with families.
Yeah, and objective. Yeah, like again, it's pretty clear, like on this on the science part, right? Like, could you find and cherry pick studies that say otherwise? Yeah, sure. Okay, but that doesn't mean that there's any like lack of consensus. Fun fact: the new Game of Thrones show has some good scenes. Yes, I was pretty excited about that. I've been paying attention. I've managed to watch all of it, as far as I know.
Save my child's life. And they're thriving.
I mean, it's just, you can't serve the country until you're 18. You can't buy a gun. You can't get alcohol until you're 21. And I mean, to make that big of a decision as a kid, I mean, you could also be destroying a lot of lives as well. I mean, their brain isn't even fully developed.
You got, until 26 plus. Yeah, so that's even further with the brain. So
does that mean that maybe we shouldn't be sending 18-year-olds to war because their brains aren't fully developed? This is such a silly argument. This is such a silly argument because like, oh, you want to talk about like, oh, we should do things until we're 26 years old. Let's talk about that. Make sure that people who serve in the military can't serve until they're 26 because, we want to make sure that with such a big decision that their brains are fully done. Shut up. Whatever, dude.
I come to this.
It's a good show. It's a good show. Welcome, Nadia. The book now is good. It's good too. Yeah, the book is good. I read the book first, Tales of Dunk and Egg.
Very much more open-minded than I've ever been, more receptive.
Should we be putting men in female prisons? Men claiming they're women?
No.
And all right, here's my last one for you. Can a man become a woman?
Can a man become a woman? No.
Well, I think the approach starts with compassion. Compassion for transgender people. Compassion for families, especially young people who are going through this. And also empathy for people who are
going through
not sure what all of this means for them.
Going through what? They're just people. That's just who they are. Holy why is this so hard to comprehend? Like, going through what? Like, you don't say you don't say that a child is going through being cis, right? Like, that's not a thing. You don't say that, oh, a child is just going, you know, they're just going through being cis, right? What are you talking about? That's just who they are. I was 4-1, hence why I fled the U.S. No, I totally understand that.
I'm like wondering, wait a minute, I got a daughter in a sports league. Is she going to be competing with boys right now? Right, and just taking everybody.
Bro, that's not happening. Shut up. That's not happening.
Seriously. Mm-hmm. And I think when you do that,
and how old is Mayo Pete's daughter? Like, let's be honest. How old is she? She's like probably in grade school, dude. Who cares? Who cares?
Call into question some of the past orthodoxies in my party, for example, around sports, where I think most reasonable people would recognize that there are serious fairness issues if you just treat this as
there isn't serious fairness issues. He's lying.
When a trans athlete wants to compete in women's sports.
Meaning the parent who's complained about this has a case, in your opinion?
Sure.
Gee, I just can't quite figure out why support for trans rights is starting to decline so sharply. When people see that the party that ostensibly supports trans people isn't even
right. That's exactly what I was saying, Anna. I love how trans kids aren't just people, only ideas to be debated. Yep. And then you wonder why. And then you wonder why people get hostile when you're trying to debate who they are. It's like, no, what are you talking about? My humanity is not up for debate. And you're wondering why people are like not willing to debate that. There's nothing to debate here is the issue. People's rights aren't up for debate. Period. Mayor Pete is queer but transphobe. Yep. Learn to rephrase your thoughts. Church is cracking down on speech. True. Very true. Very true. I'll echo that. I'll echo that. PSA, public service announcement. Just as a general public service announcement. That is very true. Just watch how and watch how and what you type. And this goes for YouTube chat too, because YouTube is, you know, pretty bad with this too. Yeah, just be careful. And just in general, and like in social media, like, yeah, just be careful. If you're in Twitch chat, if you're in YouTube chat, that is something that we need to keep in mind.
Anymore. I mean, they're going to just assume, yeah, maybe there is some merit to all of the right-wing concerns that I'm hearing about. Ask yourself this. When Medicare for All had majority support during the 2019 primary, did you see any Republicans hedge on privatized healthcare and say, you know what, maybe progressives have a point and socialized medicine might be the best way to go? Of course not. They doubled down on their opposition to it.
We're great.
Do you think that...
I'm sure you all are great. I love my little YouTube pog champs.
Trump was spooked even a little bit when he saw polls for his tariffs and big bullshit bill? A Pew Research poll found that a majority opposed his tariffs and a plurality opposed the tax cuts that he gave to rich people that were included in the big bullshit bill. But do you remember him running away from that? Of course you don't, because he passed that shit. It doesn't matter how unpopular the policy that they're proposing is. Republicans always make the case for their side and they stick to their fucking guns, whereas Democrats back down the second they sense even the slightest modicum of opposition to a policy they say they support.
Useless. And the shitlibs are melting over Hassan Piker these days, especially since Democrats will talk to him.
They never ever make the fucking case, and that is why Republicans are so dominant. Oh, Republicans are accusing us of having open...
and then we're taking the flack for saying that we're too confrontational about people's rights.
Borders and being too kind to immigrants. Actually, we hate immigrants too, and we even worked with a Republican to craft a border bill that's really bad. Oh, what's that? Republicans say that, we're trans extremists? Don't you worry. We'll chuck trans people right under the bus like we do to all other marginalized groups when it's politically convenient. It is so frustrating. And it's not just the propaganda that explains the backslide in support for trans rights. It's the complete and utter bitchification of the bitch-ass Democratic Party who couldn't shape a national agenda if their lives depended on it. And what makes this so infuriating to me is that when it comes to trans rights, the truth is actually on our side. For example, go back to that clip with Pete Buttigieg where he conceded to a parent that hypothetically was against the trans athlete at his kid's school. Like, something tells me he would
they have to dream up these scenarios, right? Like, this is exactly what I was saying. Like, they're dreaming up these scenarios, the same as like these far right people. This isn't happening, right? Like, dude. Your daughter is not playing. Like, first of all, the amount of kids that actually play sports in school is very small, okay? And within that group, do you really think, like, how many trans people do you think are actually playing sports? And third of all, it's freaking grade school, man. He cut Social Security through Congress while telling Congress they shouldn't touch Social Security. He's an auto pen. True.
Say the same about a homophobic parent in the 90s who didn't want their kid playing sports with gay predators, because locker rooms, that could be where the predators prey. But his hypocrisy aside, they do not have a fucking case, and it was outrageous that he conceded that point. You just have to take the time to explain why they're wrong and make the case. And you also have to recalibrate the conversation so we're dealing with reality and not operating within the confines of right-wing lunacy. So instead of throwing trans athletes under a bus, if I were Pete Buttigieg...
Yeah, like all dozens of them, okay? All dozens of them. Like the totality of like trans athletes, okay, is like literally like a handful, okay? At the end, all these anecdotal situations come from the cousin of the Baileys, true. I played in elementary school. I thought a lot of us did. I didn't play sports. I didn't play sports in grade school. I didn't play sports in high school. And in fact, a lot of people didn't. It was just the sports team, which comprised of like, a couple dozen people, and that's it. Or
so
whatever.
You know what? Trans athletes aren't a threat to your children, contrary to popular belief. One, because studies that aren't funded by right-wing think tanks show that trans athletes actually don't have physical advantages over cis athletes, assuming that they've undergone hormone replacement therapy. And two, you wouldn't even have to worry about it if that wasn't the case, because there's less than 100 trans athletes at the collegiate level in the entire country.
That's at the collegiate level. There's less. There's less than 100 people. Okay, and that's what's capturing the entire national freaking conversation about how we need to exclude trans people. Literally less than 100 people. Okay, I played sports in school, but I didn't follow up to university, and like most of us wouldn't, right? Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, look, this is the collegiate level, okay? Less than 100. Less than 100. Oh, a coffee, environmental coffee house raid. Hey, Sandy, welcome. Welcome, folks. Community traders against you know what. For the record, I didn't call Bruno bad. I would like that noted. welcome everybody. Hey folks, if you're coming in from the Environmental Coffee House and you enjoy this content, make sure you hit that subscribe button over on the YouTube. Yeah, I agree. Someone I saw online made a good point now that the youth sports has gotten more exclusive and expensive, contributed to the increased incidence of bigotry in the parents. Sandy usually steals the chatters, not provide them. I did all through school. I even was a runner after school. Nice! Nice.
So no, they're not destroying women's sports, and at the K through 12 level, the number is even lower. How low? Well, there's just 5 known trans athletes across the entire country at the K through 12 level. 5. And no, suffice it to say, I don't think that 5 athletes are destroying sports for your daughters. Quite the contrary, actually. In fact, one of those 5 athletes was 13-year-old Fisher Wells, the only known trans athlete in the entire state of Kentucky.
Yep. A 13-year-old, by the way. Sorry, I didn't know you were live. Oh, no, it's all good. Nobody transitions to win sports games. Exactly. Like, this is also another fallacy. Like, do you think that people are, like, just transitioning? Are just like transing themselves to win sport? That's not a thing. Again, there's less than 100. There's less than 100 at the collegiate level. That's college. That is as close as you're gonna get to professional. Okay, that is like the beginning bar of like, oh, are you gonna be professional, or is that where it ends? And there's less than 100. Okay. I mean, like, this is just delusional to be so preoccupied that you've made it like your mission to go after these people.
Hockey team wouldn't even exist without her, seeing as how she recruited enough girls to even be able to form a hockey team. And even though her friends very clearly enjoyed playing with her, it was fun for them, they got together after school, they hung out.
Yeah, like they're 13. They're 13.
Well, do you want to know what Kentucky's lawmakers chose to do? They banned her from the team she helped create. It didn't matter that she went to the legislature in her state and pleaded with them and said, hey, my friends want me to play with them. They still passed a bill banning all future trans athletes, including Fisher Wells, from playing in school sports just to stop that one 13-year-old from having fun with their friends. So no, I don't think that parents who are drunk on Fox News Kool-Aid have legitimate concerns about trans.
They don't. And what's, again, like people like Pete Buttigieg know this, okay? Like, he's not dumb either, okay? I know we were talking about Anna Kasparian the other stream on yesterday, I think. But he knows. This is a non-issue. And to even entertain this is just already conceding the point.
Athletes. And even if all 5 of the trans athletes were menaces and they were cracking the skulls of their cis teammates, it is still not a legitimate concern, statistically speaking, because your kid is more likely to be struck by lightning or eaten by a shark or murdered by a school shooter than they are to even encounter a trans athlete. Like, encountering a trans person, generally speaking, statistically, very unlikely in school. But a trans athlete, they are a minority of a minority. We're talking about a fraction of a percent here. So if you're concerned about trans athletes, congratulations, you've been duped. You've been distracted by the Epstein class who want you to think that trans people are the cause of all of your problems, even though it's the elites who are the ones that are robbing you blind. You simply have to make the fucking case that I'm making. Is that so difficult? But let's assume that Jane and the likes of Cenk Uygur and others...
How's it going? Hey, welcome. Folks, please go check out Heat420_. Please go follow. Yeah, Fox Nazi News Kool-Aid. Lives up to pretend to care about people. Yep. Especially these empty suit types. Altercation between teammates is a common occurrence. Yeah, but like, Let's be honest.
Who agree are correct, and that if we did concede on some issues, sports, for example, conservatives will finally leave trans people alone.
Nope.
Do we really think that this is the case?
Nope. Nope, because it has nothing to do with sports. It has nothing to do with sports, okay? Again, when was the last time someone like Matt Walsh or Charlie Kirk or Michael Knowles or Ben Shapiro or any of these freaks cared about women's sports? In fact, they made fun of that very same idea in their garbage movie Lady Ballers. Okay, in their transphobic movie Lady Ballers, they literally made fun of women's sports. Like, nobody watches this anyways. Like, okay, so then what is the issue? So no, it's not about women's sports. It's not. It has nothing
Really?
to do with that.
I'm old enough to remember a time when conservatives only wanted to ban gender-affirming care for adolescents. Now, they've been pretty open about the fact that they don't think that anybody should have access to gender-affirming healthcare, even adults as well. So this is why you don't concede on anything ever, because once you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile. Or in this case, once you buy into the idea...
Yeah, and especially when it comes to people's rights. Especially when it comes to people's rights. There's no room for negotiating.
That some
that movie would have flopped if it wasn't for the left.
discrimination towards trans people on narrow issues is okay. You feed into the right's dehumanization of them and fan the flames of hate, because of some dehumanization...
Right. The far right wants to preferably ban women from sports, not just trans athletes. Yep. The Lady Bars is so bad they make the Daily Wire look like a ripoff of her take.
is okay. Why not a little more dehumanization on this issue and that issue? It's not like we're killing them, so as long as we, just nibble around the edges until there's no rights left, that's fine, right? Like, this is how you get fascist creep, which is why you hold strong and you reject the premise altogether, and you insist that trans people, like all human beings, should be equal. Trans people should have the same rights as their cis peers, full stop. But even if you try to make the case and you fail, guess what? Trans issues aren't as salient to cis voters as other issues like the economy are. So they're not going to be motivated to vote against Democrats if they come off as too compassionate to trans people. But people with trans friends and family and trans people are going to be pissed off if Democrats choose to abandon them. But Jane will have to forgive me if I come off as one of these unreasonable trans rights activists who refuses to even hear the other side, because I see how this debate about trans people affects my trans family members. So I refuse to let people talk casually about this as if we're merely discussing tax policy when people's lives are at stake.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's literally what I'm saying. Like, this isn't for debate. Like, we're not having a debate about this. There is no debate. The only correct take is that trans people are people and they deserve equal rights, full stop. And to stop freaking harassing them and to stop being so hateful and bullying them simply because they exist. That's it. There is no debate. There's no conversation to be had. This isn't tax policy like Mike said. I agree.
As journalist Aaron Reed reports, suicides among trans teens skyrocketed in the UK following crackdowns on life-saving medically necessary gender-affirming healthcare. And here at home, Republicans have already proposed more than 400 anti-LGBTQ plus bills in legislatures across the country, most of them anti-trans, and let me remind you, it's just February. And as high as that number is, it was actually higher last year. And the political and social climate towards trans people has gotten so toxic that genocide experts at the Lemkin Institute are now saying...
If Trump haters would stop looking at Trump's actions and start looking at a curated fraction of his words, they'd realize he's actually a great guy. Yeah, the pedophile, right?
Sounding the alarm about how we're in the early to mid stages...
the president pedophile... President Epstein class
of an actual trans genocide in the United States, with Lemkin's Institute president Dr. Alyssa von Hoden-Forhay warning that Republicans are using trans people.
1 second. I'll be right back. I just have to get my cat down. She's being a bit naughty. She's trying to be naughty. She's trying to get to the trying to get to the food. She's trying to steal my plate of food.
To generate fear, particularly surrounding children, family, and their ideal concept of masculinity, to prime their base for genocide. But she's not alone. Dr. Gregory Stanton, president of the group Genocide Watch, agreed, saying that Donald Trump's executive...
This is why my supporters are turning on me.
Order denying any recognition of any gender outside of the male-female binary is a totalitarian idea that is driven by Nazi ideology. Dr. Stanton also noted that such strict male-female binaries neither exist in nature nor in many other cultures. Quote, the Trump administration and its basis have identified a set of enemies or objectionable people and have stirred up public prejudice against them in a way that is escalating towards violence, said Dr. Henry Thuralt, who served as the International Association of Genocide Scholars from 2017 to 2021. Thuralt said the U.S. would increase policies to make life intolerable for trans Americans, something that will cause trans suicide rates to rise dramatically. And he adds, we're already at the point for trans folks, for immigrants, where the damage is being done, Dr. Thuralt said. So it's not so much will genocide happen as we got to stop it from happening. And on that note, it's gotten so bad that 48% of trans Americans have either moved from the state that they were living in due to crackdowns on trans rights, or they fled the country altogether. In fact, some of them ended up in a refugee camp in the Netherlands while they wait for their asylum claims to be processed. And I don't want to just breeze by that horrifying fact, so I'm going to say it again because it's important. There are American refugees who were forced to flee the country so they can escape political persecution. Let that sink in.
Oh,
that's what it's come to.
Olo bust, welcome.
But the radical trans activists are the ones who are expected as some sort of popularity contest. I don't view this as a political game to be played. I view...
1 second, folks. It's coming back. Hello, 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 hello. Is it back? Is it back? Are we back? Are we good? Oh, there we are. Yeah, just a small F. It's back. Okay, we can go back. Just a bit.
Trans rights, because according to Jane, we've been a little bit too vocal. Fuck that. We should be louder and more persistent than ever when it comes to trans rights, because I don't view this as some sort of popularity contest. I don't view this as a political game to be played. I view this as a fight for a group of people whose existence is existentially threatened by fascists. So no, Democrats shouldn't use Jane's poll as a justification to abandon trans people. They should see it as a failure and be ashamed by what has happened. It is the culmination of years of propaganda and millions of dollars being spent, and they didn't push back. So the takeaway from this poll, if you're an elected Democrat, should be, I need to fight even harder because things have gotten bad since I've withdrawn from the fight. I've ceded ground to the fascists. Because, I mean, if you can't even stand by the basic social justice principles that you purported to have just a couple of years ago, really, what good are you as a party? Like, why would you even exist at that point if you're not willing to do the bare fucking minimum for your own constituents? So I dare Democrats, try to pull a TYT. Just try and see what happens if you jump on the anti-trans bandwagon to make yourself more popular. TYT found out the hard way that actually didn't help them, because actually if you purport to be progressive, you should stand for progressive values, and that means standing for marginalized people when they need you. So just try it. Like, if you want to come for my trans family and my trans friends, you're going to have to go through me and millions of other cis people who are not going to let you harm our trans family, right? And if there's anything we learned from Republicans, it's that bullying works. So I promise you, there will be fucking hell to pay for any Democrat who gets out of line on this issue. You either toe the line or you face our wrath. And let this be a warning to all Democrats thinking that they're going to run for president in 2028. Fuck around and find out. We will crush your 2028 ambitions the second you fucking equivocate. I am done with the spinelessness of this party. Either stand for what you say you believe in or fuck off.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Play stupid games.
F around and find out.
Play stupid games.
I'm trans and live in Indiana. Democrats here abandoned trans people years before national ones did. I was already tired of debating local libs over my rights. Now I'm having to debate national libs as well. Yeesh. Trump is about to do an executive order to place ICE at all voting stations to ID voters. We're going to need a big white passing turnout or it's death by 1,000 cuts. Can you send me something on that? Well, I don't know if YouTube allows. I'll actually look that up because that is important. That is important. This is why you need more than 2 parties. I agree. Anna is absolutely welcome here. No links by default in YouTube chat, but you can add me to the allow list in YouTube studio settings. Really? Well, we'll mess around with that later. Yeah, Trump is trying to steal the election. Yeah, because they know that it's not looking good for them. They're really trying. Okay, this whole like ID stuff, they're really trying. They're really trying. The U.S. military moves into place for possible strikes in Iran. Look at we're drumming up some war. You know, of course. You know, why are we still talking about Epstein? The rapid buildup of U.S. forces in the Middle East has progressed to the point where President Trump has the option to take military action against Iran as soon as this weekend. Administration and Pentagon officials said, leaving the White House with high-stakes choices about pursuing diplomacy or war. Okay, that's I suppose that's one way of framing that. Another way of framing it is that we are war hungry, bloodthirsty, and it doesn't appear that nobody wants to stop us. Mr. Trump gave no indication that he has made a decision about how to proceed, but the drive to assemble a military force capable of striking Iran's, quote, nuclear program, its ballistic missiles and accompanying launch sites has continued this week despite indirect talks between the two nations on Tuesday. Manji Misty, welcome. Trump is asking Israel to hack our elections. I mean, he is desperate. That would not surprise me if he's doing that. With Iran seeking 2 weeks to come back with fleshed out proposals for a week of diplomatic resolution, Trump has repeatedly demanded that Iran give up its nuclear program, including agreeing not to enrich any more uranium. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, whose country would potentially take part in the attack, has been pushing for action to weaken Iran's ability to launch missiles at Israel. Of course, Israeli forces, which have been heightened on alert for weeks, have been making preparations for possible war. And a meeting on Israel's security cabinet was moved to Sunday from Thursday. So yeah, I think that's. I think this is a possibility that we might see something happen here. Why is a woke, difficult troop picking on me? Your favorite president being in the Epstein files. I was never involved. Who's talking about Epstein? You know, he's a really bad guy, but not me. Not me. Totally exonerated. Iran is threatening to release hacked materials on Trump, I heard. I mean, they should just do it anyways, if that's true. Assuming that's true, they should just do it. Many administration officials expect skepticism about prospects of reaching a diplomatic deal with Tehran. Fantastic. The indirect talks on Tuesday in Geneva ended with what Iran's foreign minister said was an agreement of set of guiding principles. U.S. officials said the two sides made progress, but added that gaps remain. Mr. Trump has repeatedly threatened Iran must meet this term or face severe consequences, but another attack 8 months after a 12-day war in which Israel and the United States assaulted military and nuclear sites across Iran would potentially carry substantial risks, including that Iran would respond with a ferocious barrage of missile strikes on Israel and on U.S. forces in the region. For a president who ran for office promising to keep the United States out of war, I'm the peace president, Nobel Peace President. Sick puppy, welcome. Evening. They need to wait until he gives them no more leverage from it, but otherwise, on principle, I agree. Yeah. Mr. Trump is now considering what would be at least the 7th American military attack on another country in the past year. Fantastic. Peace president. And his second on Iran. Again, peace president. Last June, after striking 3 Iranian nuclear sites, Trump declared that Iran's nuclear program had been, quote, obliterated, but apparently that's obviously not true because they're making negotiations to end Iran's supposedly ended nuclear program. Okay. Unlike U.S. Israeli assault last June, Mr. Trump's objectives are now less clear. The U.S. military buildup includes dozens of refueling tankers rushed by the region by United States Central Command, more than 50 additional fighter jets, 2 aircraft carrier strike groups complete with their accompanying destroyers, cruisers, and submarines. The aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, fresh from the Caribbean, where it was part of the naval fleet pressuring the Venezuelan government of President Nicolas Maduro, was approaching Gibraltar on Wednesday as it made its way to join the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln in the region. Klinsky had a video about the ICE ID voting thing titled Trump Plots Rigging Election Through Executive Order and Sinister Plot, The Kyle Klinsky Show. Gotcha, I'm going to take a look at that later. Fun fact, Iran may be one of the first countries made uninhabitable by climate disruption. Huh. The more you know. As a critical supporter of Iran as against being invaded by this rogue government that purports to act in my name, certainly with my money, the Iranian military strategist should employ every weapon against the great Satan, to maximum effect. I agree. The president has always been very clear through, with respect to Iran or any country around the world, diplomacy is always his first option. Oh, yeah. Clearly. Diplomacy, yeah, diplomacy, like, either do what we want or else. Diplomacy. Gotcha. Iran would be very wise to make a deal with President Trump and this administration, said Carolyn Levitt, the White House press secretary, and professional Nazi Barbie said on Wednesday. He's always thinking about what's in the best interest of Donald Trump, the United States, and of our military, of the American people, and that's how he makes decisions with respect to military action. Yeah. Okay. No. In Israel, the 2 defense officials said that significant preparations were underway for the possibility of a joint strike with the United States, even though no decision has been made about whether to carry out such an attack. They said planning envisions delivering a severe blow over a number of days with the goals of forcing Iran into concessions at the negotiation table it has so far been unwilling to make. Oh, this is so great. We're doing so great. Fantastic. Yeah, the diplomacy like when they assassinated General Soleimani. The U.S. buildup suggests an array of possible Iranian targets, including short and medium-range missiles, missile storage depots, nuclear sites, and other military targets such as the headquarters of the Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The ultimate decision on the scope of the target is up to the president. The administration and military officials said the United States bolstered its defensive assets since the president initially threatened to strike Iran in January. So anyways, the point being, yeah, I think it was, I want to say it was Violet Quinlaw, maybe a couple of chatters yesterday or the day before were talking about this. It does seem like we are building a significant amount of military hardware there to do more to spread more democracy. Apparently, this is really bad. This is not good. Not great. Not great at all. We'll keep an eye on that for sure, especially in the next week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I already ordered an Uber and forgot about it. Now I need a new one, and it costs $10 more. Oof. That's rough. Kennedy defends Trump's glyphosate order and Maha erupts as midterms approach. Very good stuff. Secretary of Health Robert Kennedy Jr. has defended Trump's executive order spurring the domestic production of a little-known weed killer called glyphosate. As his Make America Healthy Again movement reels from the president's embrace of the chemical they despise. A chemical, incidentally, by the way, whatever you think of the Maha people, absolute lunatics. Glyphosate is pretty bad. That is objectively pretty bad, and has been very well known and documented to be a carcinogen. Trump on Wednesday night signed an executive order invoking the Defense Production Act, of course, to compel the domestic production of poison. Glyphosate is a chemical in Bayer Monsanto's Roundup and is the most commonly used herbicide for a slew of U.S. crops. Trump, in the order, said shortages of both phosphorus and glyphosate would pose a risk to national security. Okay. Kennedy backed the president in a statement to CNBC this morning. This morning. Trump's executive order puts America first where it matters most, our defense readiness and our food supply. Okay. He said, we must safeguard America's national security first because our priorities depend on it. When hostile actors control critical inputs, they weaken our security. By expanding domestic production, we close that gap and protect American families. What does that have to do with anything? I'm confused. Kennedy's Maha coalition that supported Trump in 2024 hates glyphosate, which has been alleged to cause cancer in a myriad of lawsuits. No, I think it's pretty documented. I think it's pretty safe to say that glyphosate is absolutely a carcinogen. Now the executive order threatens to unravel that coalition ahead of the 2026 midterm election that could loosen the president's grip in Washington. I love it. You love to see it, folks. Just as a large Maha base begins to consider what to do at the midterms, the president issues an executive order to expand domestic glyphosate production, said Kelly Ryerson, a prominent Maha activist known as the Glyphosate Girl, posted on Twitter. It's the very same carcinogen pesticide that Maha cares about the most. Isn't that the Roundup chemical? Yep. Ken Cook, the president of the Environmental Working Group and watchdog that has pushed back against chemicals in food for years, said in a statement that he can't envision a bigger middle finger to every Maha mom than this. Really? Really? I just saw a YouTube video about banned crops in the US, and apparently Roundup is doctored to unalive or target those crops, but they grow naturally around the world and are more healthy. Capitalism. Bad Lefty, welcome. After looking at the disturbing video, the Kid Rock and Bobby Kennedy, I'm hereby firing Bobby from the HHS immediately. You know, Bobby, let me down. You let me down, Bobby. And asking the FBI to arrest both Bobby and Kid Rock for indecency. Kid Rock. You know, some people say that he's not a kid, but his name is Kid Rock. Bye-bye. Elevating glyphosate to a national security priority is the exact opposite of what Maha voters were promised. Oh, wow, really? Huh. It's almost like that had nothing to do with making America healthy again. Because if you were interested in making America healthy again, not only would you work on price controls with regards to groceries and making sure people could afford like healthy groceries, but you would be talking about a universal healthcare system. You would be talking about environmental protections against things like this, incidentally. So yeah, I mean, please spare me. If Secretary Kennedy remains at HHS after this, it will be impossible to argue that his past warnings about glyphosate were anything more than campaign rhetoric designed to win trust and votes. Wow. Really? Shocked Pikachu face. Kennedy, a former environmental attorney, notably once won a $290 million case against Monsanto for a man who claimed his cancer was caused by Roundup. This is wild, wild. The Onion couldn't have made this up, okay? The Onion could not have made this up. The executive order came down one day after Bayer proposed paying $7.25 billion to settle a series of lawsuits claiming Roundup causes cancer. Huh. Yeah, but that would be using money for poor people, and we can't. That's not. We don't do that here. We don't do that here in the good old US of A. All the chemicals and dyes they want to take out of food, but they roll back regulation that adds even more harmful chemicals to foods, plus RFK drinks black BLE dye. Make it make sense. It's really simple. It's just like not about health at all. It's not about health at all. It's about it's about the money. It's about the money. It's about the money. Glyphosate is a critical chemical to American agriculture. It's applied to many key cash crops such as corn, soybeans, and has been defended by the agricultural trade organizations. Phosphorus is a key input to the creation of glyphosate, which the White House argues is necessary to maintain food security. Elemental phosphorus is also used in the manufacture of some military materials. Thank you, Mr. President, for acknowledging the importance of glyphosate-based herbicides in American agriculture, said the House Agriculture Committee Republicans on Twitter. It is a vital step forward to ensuring the domestic supply of this critical crop input remains available for our producers. So yeah, good stuff, good stuff. Oh, blue dye. And the whole economy is fake. It's just an AI bubble in a trench suit. That's what it is. My damn keys are stiffening. Do you have like a super special awesome gaming keyboard? It's not managing a country using the government anymore. More cool stuff happening in the great US of A. Refugees in the US could be arrested under a new immigration memo. Cool stuff, you know. As it turns out, being a refugee is a legal way of being an immigrant, but, you know. Sure, immigrants who came to the US as refugees could be detained after a year of arriving here under a new policy under DHS. Refugees must either get a green card within a year or present themselves to the agency to avoid detention, according to a February 18th memo from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services and Immigration Customs Enforcement. The move marks yet another attempt for the Trump administration to further limit legal pathways to resettle in the United States. So, i.e., another way of putting it is they don't actually care about the, quote, right way. Like, can we just stop talking about this idea that this is anything to do with immigration at all? This is everything to do with producing this white ethno state that these freaks have dreamed up their entire lives. That's what this is about. $30 Logitech mouse and keyboard combo from Walmart 5 years ago. Oof, that's actually not bad. That's actually not bad. I'm currently I've got like a more gamer style like keyboard on the other side, but here for the stream side I'm rocking this cheap JLab vertical mouse and a 5 below. That's why I grabbed it. Yeah, I don't blame you. Damn good deal. Zajap, welcome. Hey folks, if you don't know who Zajap is, please Go show some love. Go and follow twitch.tv/thechap. And I have a five below keyboard that is themed after The Nightmare Before Christmas, just like my little beanie. We're gonna steal the United States Constitution, Nick Caging it. Heck yeah. Your only purpose is to find new ways to steal the entire US Treasury, among other things, yes. A kleptocracy, yep. Yeah, well, since cash crops can't grow in the US without glyphosate now, well, not from Monsanto seed, yeah. The Chap regularly raids the serfs. Nice, the Chap is a homie. Got myself some Jack Skellington PJ pants for Christmas this year. Nice, as one does. As one does. That's the only thing, honestly, that's missing. Because I've got the beanie, I've got a keyboard, I've got like one of these pop cell phone holders. I mean, we're doing pretty good, I think, on the theme. If you want to see what it looks like. Hopefully it doesn't fall. That's what it looks like. I just tried the Nintendo Switch 2 of Legend of Zelda. Nice. The which one? Tears of the Kingdom or Breath of the Wild? Well, no, it has to be Tears of the Kingdom, right? Very nice. Well, thank you guys. Based. I just need a Night Before Christmas face tattoo now. Heck yeah. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan. Oh, both of them. Nice. Nice. I bet they run nice on the Switch 2. I need a solution to procrastination. Well, you can try again tomorrow. Think on it. The move marks yet another attempt from the Trump administration to further limit legal pathways to resettle in the U.S. The administration last year set the lowest ever cap for refugees it would admit in the U.S. Yeah, memos equal law now. In a way, yeah. I mean, he's kind of dictating policy by wielding these agencies to do things like this. Nintendo released upgrades for both of them? Ah, okay, gotcha. For some reason, I thought it was only Tears of the Kingdom. That's cool. USCIS had later announced that it would re-review the status of everyone who had been in the admitted to the U.S. as a refugee under the Biden administration, essentially reopening those cases and risking the loss of legal refugee status. This policy is a transparent effort to detain and potentially deport thousands of people who are legally present in the country, people the U.S. government itself welcomed after years of extreme vetting. Said Beth Oppenheim, CEO of HIAS, one of the resettlement organizations. They were promised safety and a chance to rebuild their lives. Instead, DHS is now threatening them with arrest and indefinite detention. Pretty much. That's the name of the game. The memo was filed as part of documents submitted in a federal court case tied to refugees who were arrested in Minnesota. In it, USCIS Director Joseph Edlow and ICE Acting Director Todd Leons directed their agencies to detain and inspect refugees who do not voluntarily return to DHS custody for inspection and examination to be a legal permanent resident at the 1-year mark of being in the country. The The policy rescinds prior guidance and that did not treat the failure to apply for a green card as grounds for deportation. It also states that refugees may be placed in immigration detention while their application for a green card is being considered, i.e. concentration camps. Again, like, why would you want to do it the legal way if you're just going to end up in a camp anyways? Pretty common that dictators rule by decree. Yep. Trump did an executive order making it illegal to film ICE among a bunch of other stuff too. It was largely ignored. Yeah, 100%. But the thing is, like, that I agree. That I agree. You can just ignore that because that isn't like law. But like the way that a president or the executive can wield these agencies, while they're not law per se, they do have real world implications for the people that is targeting, right? Of course, what he's doing isn't law per se, but I mean, it is a way of wielding the executive branches like DHS to inflict harm on immigrants, which is the point. You know, of course, he's not like making law. None of this is law. It's just DHS policy now, right? I'm sorry, but presidential decrees need to be abolished. I agree. True social equals the new U.S. Code of Law. True. But yeah, like being told that you can't film ICE, yeah, you can just toss that in the trash. Obviously, film ICE. Everywhere you see ICE, film them, okay? You have your First Amendment right to film ICE. Screw that. Film them. But yeah, this is a bit different. This is Trump like wielding his executive branch power to implement these policies, department policies, so to speak. The policy rescinds prior guidance that did not treat the failure to apply as a green card as grounds for deportation. Also states that refugees may be placed in concentration camps while their application for a green card is being considered. The agency leaders say the new policy is needed to prevent immigration fraud, identity, national security threats, and vet people for criminal history. Again, like this is non-issue. They're just inventing this because they're xenophobic, racist. That's basically what it is. This detain and inspect requirement ensures that refugees are, quote, re-vetted after 1 year, aligns post-admission vetting with that applied to other applicants for admission, and promotes public safety. Oh, yeah, public safety. Yeah. Trump just put a giant banner of his face on the DOJ building. Yikes. Really? That's kind of, oof, that's, yeesh. That's, yikes. That's pretty yikes. Yeah, he really feels himself a freaking king, doesn't he? With all the Ring cameras, they're already being filmed. That's true. Film them more. Solidarity works. I agree. DHS did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the policy. The new policy sent shockwaves through an already weakened refugees resettlement program or system. In the past 12 months, the Trump administration has cut off key funding to organizations that assist refugees resettling in the U.S., including services that help with green card and citizenship applications. Refugees are required to apply for permanent residence or a green card after they've been in the country for at least a year. Refugee resettlement organizations estimate this new policy would impact tens of thousands of refugees, mostly those who entered during the Biden administration. After going through extensive vetting to arrive in the U.S., they will now fear they could be affected by delays in processing at USCIS. Sean Van Diver, president of the Organization of Afghan EVAC, called the memo a reckless reversal of long-standing policy that treats refugees admissions as conditional. It breaks faith with the people of the United States lawfully admitted and promised protection. Groups that work with refugees warn there are several reasons why refugees may not have adjusted status quickly after arriving in the U.S., including a complex immigration system and backlogs at USCIS itself. Of course. And if you tell these people like, hey, we should probably expand, you know, the bureaucracy to try to go through these things, they would say no, because it's not about immigration. It's about building an ethno-state. It's an ethno-state project. They don't want foreigners. Okay, that's it. If you don't look, quote, American, i.e. white, then like, yeah, we don't want you here. That's basically what the policy, what this whole immigration thing is about. It's not about enforcing immigration law per se. It's about willing this ethno-state project into existence. In fiscal year of 2025, 38,000 refugees were resettled into the U.S. For this fiscal year, the Trump administration set a historic low ceiling for refugee admissions of 7,500, with the priority for admissions going to white South Africans. I mean, like, it's right there. It's right there. The Senate is specified in a section of the Constitution that's exempted from being able to be amended. I mean, I have a theory. I have a theory that could possibly work with that. What if, and this is hypothetical, I don't believe it'll ever happen, or maybe I'm wrong, but technically, hypothetically, we could put the Senate and merge it with the House. It'll still be a Senate. States will still have their, quote, senators. It just won't be a, essentially, it just won't have the same, you know, undemocratic, problem that it would existing as a second body to impede any like democratic motions. The Senate will still exist. It just will be absorbed into the House, and it just won't have the same capabilities as the Senate now. That would be a way to get around that without having to do anything, because the Senate would still exist, and it would still be, you know, every state would still get their 2 senators or whatever. They would just be like a special section of the House, but they cannot do the same things that this version of the Senate, because like the Senate existed in the Senate prior had different like powers. You know, back then when the country was established, like, you know, there's specific like rules as to who could be a senator or whatever. Like all of that's changed. Okay, there's this two-step process where the clause that says the Senate can't be amended can be amended out. A follow-up amendment can then abolish the Senate. Okay, so technically there is a pathway. Okay, I was thinking like what it meant, and you know, you don't have to excuse my ignorance here. I thought it was just meant that like you cannot have a government without the Senate, but I guess there is technically a hypothetical path. Then yeah, I would go that way. If there's a way to just abolish the Senate, then yeah, that's the path that I would preferably like. F-ICE, I agree. Moving strong bicameralism would be beneficial. Yeah, I don't want the Senate to be in existence the way it is right now. Whether you abolish it completely or whether you absorb it into the House and just kind of make them part of the House, it doesn't matter. But yeah. The Portuguese constitution was amended in articles that forbid the legislature from doing so. But yeah, I agree. The Senate's got to go. In my ideal world, the Senate would go. How that materializes is irrelevant or doesn't really matter to me. I wouldn't abolish the Senate. I would. It's just useless. Like either integrate it with the House, or integrate it with the House, or just kind of like, I don't know. I don't know. It's either got to go completely or it just become part of the House. State shouldn't split, but they should be combined. Annex Delaware into Maryland. Oh, could you split larger states like South Cali, East Cali, and make like senators for each one? I would make the Senate a body that would just vote in special laws. Sure. Whatever. the point is, like, at this, the way the Senate is set up, it is just not functional. It's not working. The memo was filed in Minnesota federal court as part of an ongoing lawsuit about revetting, arrest and detention of refugees who have not yet received a green card. Last month, a federal judge ordered the release of refugees in Minnesota and granted a temporary pause on detentions, which he said had been made without warrants or cause, while the case played out. The arrest came after USCIS in January launched an investigation into 5,600 refugees in Minnesota who had not yet received their green cards and swiftly began referring cases to ICE. So, yeah. Good stuff happening in the good old US of A. I think Congress approves new states. Gotcha. Yeah, this makes sense. European countries have proportional representation, yes, and the Epstein class has still posted the US's two-party system onto all of them and brought them all out. Kind of. Like, it's really fascinating how that plays out. And again, you're gonna have to excuse my ignorance on how European politics play out. But yeah, it does seem like it's not like you have like two parties, but you kind of like there's a bunch of little parties that kind of combine and make these two tents, right? From what I understand, and that may not be the case for all European countries, but I do like the idea of proportional representation. If we're gonna have a representative democracy, it should be it should be in that way. Hey, welcome, Kudama Lama. There's no legitimacy for the Senate, a body just for rich, set against small business. House is not a democracy. F the founders. I agree. Theoretical redrawing of state boundaries constitutional is required approval by state legislature of each state in question affected. Question affected number 2, approved by the federal legislature. With at least that's me going off my memory of the Constitution without double checking. It sounds right. It sounds right. F the founders. Yeah. Excuse me if, like, you know, 100-year-old slave owners didn't exactly have like the best you know, the best program in the first round, okay? Anyways. Folks, it's about to be 7 o'clock. I gotta get out of here. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of your support. You guys are what makes this channel go. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Thank you all on the YouTube side. Thank you all on the Twitch side for hanging out. Folks, if you haven't done so, make sure you do all the stuff, you know, all the stuff, the likes and the comments and the subs and the things and the doodads. It really does help us out. And spread the word, folks. We're here Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Check out my show on this space every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I actually was on impromptu host on Left Past 10 yesterday. So if you want to watch that fever dream, check out this space and go to the last section there for Left Past 10. Fantastic stuff. The reality is that little parties are mostly shut out of relevance, and the two big parties just do like Dems and Republicans. Okay, this makes sense. This actually makes a lot of sense. Actually, yeah. Yeah, as to imagine maybe giving an Oz fair shot, trying to do better. I'm against any presidential decree with force of law. So am I. Like, even in the heights of my nationalistic American propaganda delusions before the age of reason, our hero worship of people so obviously so far removed from now. Am I woke? We're all woke here. No, thank you guys. Thank you, Heat, and thank you, Michael Hatzer, for modding the chat. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, and have a good weekend, Ladybug. Appreciate you being here. I appreciate you guys, and folks, join the Discord. Time to raid the serfs. Yeah, please. If you're on YouTube, the world is your oyster, chat, because I can't raid anybody, but I can do it on Twitch. Yeah, even if my much more naive days as I would have thought you credit them with any special brilliance, and now as if like any group can be any group of actual brilliant humans could do, and actually unforeseeable potentialities just makes no sense on the face of it. Yep, I agree. Catch my show on Sunday, 4:20 Eastern Time on Twitch. Yes, please shout yourself out. Please go check out Heat420_ and let's join. Let's go. We can hang out on Sunday stream and just chill. Yeah, exactly, Nadia. They didn't have wooden teeth either. They were teeth from slaves. Yes. What's the before I go, I'll leave you guys with this. What's that saying? If you're reading history and you're feeling proud or you're feeling good, then you're not reading history. Thank you all for being here as always. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. Alefiana, hope to see you guys in the next one, Monday around 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Sunday, 4:20 Eastern. Alright folks, we're heading out. Hang tight. We're heading out in 5. Oh, hey, we're already ready. What's going on here? Okay, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.